Today, we're taking a close look at a 2017 Ford Escape SE. This one is one step above the base model with the 1.5 liter EcoBoost and all-wheel drive. I'll talk about my experience driving it in a bit, including how it performs in 8 inches of snow. If you're in the market for a used compact SUV, stick around to see what this vehicle has to offer in terms of performance, features, and real-world drivability. With that said, be sure to check out all of my other videos where I've reviewed everything from the Ford Focus all the way up to the Expedition of this generation. Let's get started. Let's talk design with the Escape here. So you'll notice that it has a very Ford front grille with their wraparound, elongated and sporty-like headlights, which, you know, I'm not as big of a fan of these headlights as some of the other Ford headlights, but the front end of this car is very Ford. This is a compact SUV, but it still maintains its somewhat sporty crossover feel while still being very utilitarian. This comes standard with 17-inch wheels, but the higher trim levels have more premium alloy options. The Escape SE comes with cloth seating and a straightforward dashboard layout. Again, very familiar for Ford and nothing too fancy, but everything is easy to find and use. You don't get a smart key on the base model, so you still have to old-fashioned put it in and turn the car on. 1.5 EcoBoost runs really well. Just specific to this car, we have a few warning lights. This one does have 87,000 miles. We'll talk about the engine and the MPG in just a minute, but I'm showing you here its city MPG, which is close to 22, and it should average about 29 on the highway. Like I said, a very Ford dashboard layout here. Everything's super easy to find. We've got our turn signals switches here, high beams on the light stock here on the side, and then we have our windshield wipers, which also very Ford, has the wipers open up from the center, just like the Focus. The base model gets a 4.2-inch sync-based infotainment screen. I believe that this is still Sync 1, which does the job, although it's not as feature-packed as higher trim levels with the larger screen. With the 4.2-inch sync screen, you still get Bluetooth and USB connectivity, so it's a solid choice for most drivers. In terms of sound quality, I find that the base Sync Ford model sound system is lacking. But having said that, take it with a grain of salt, because I've always been pampered when it comes to a sound system. Even in my 2004 F-150, I have the full Ford audiophile system. In our Expedition and our Fusion Titanium, we have Sony sound systems. In some of my older cars, we had full Bose stereo systems. And in my Saab, of course, I have the Harman Kardon. So nothing to me is going to sound good unless it's a premium sound system. The Sync radio gets the job done in this car. You are lacking some of that deep bass because you're lacking a subwoofer, and even some of the high trebles are lacking in terms of, you know, they didn't use the highest quality tweeters. But you do get tweeters up here in the door, and you get your mid-level and your bass coming out of the door panels down low. I think for the everyday driver, you have Bluetooth and you have a decent quality sound system. After all, this is 2017, so most sound systems at this point are pretty good. Let's talk space and cargo room. I am 5'9", so I'm not a big guy. If you were 6.5 feet tall, I think you would have plenty of room here in the Expedition. You can see that's almost a full sheet of paper in between my head and the ceiling. The seat goes down more. The seat goes a lot farther back than I am. Holy smokes, I mean a lot farther back than I currently am. I am short, so I have to slide it clear up. The steering wheel has its typical underneath Ford adjustment. It goes in and out, down and up. So this is a very roomy, very comfortable cockpit dare I say, for anybody that's going to be driving this car. Absolutely love the center console of the Escape. Now, obviously the Expedition, the Explorer have really good center consoles because the vehicles are just big, but in terms of size and being a small compact SUV, this is absolutely one of my favorite center consoles that I've ever sat in, second only to the Honda Pilot. Now, here you have a nice little cubby with USB connectivity for the radio and charging, and you also have your 12-volt charger port right there. Now, when you're driving, sometimes finding a spot for your phone in most SUVs is kind of tricky and hard. Ford has totally fixed that with this little cubby here for your phone. Your phone sits in there quite nicely, stands up so you can even see, you know, what time it is or somebody's calling you. You have a dual cup holder with these little nubbins that'll hold in virtually any size of drink. Here we have our electronic parking brake, and our shifter in the 17 base model is still here in the center. Now, very Ford familiar is the center console with two releases here. If I pull the right release, I get this top little mini section where I could put my wallet or a pen, and if I pull the left one, I get the full big section here. And we have the OBD cover port because the dealership put a tracker in it, and we get another 12-volt port there as well, and a little cubby right in front of the center console that is somewhat obstructed from view, but it's quite deep, and you could put a lot of things in there for extra storage. You have a cup holder right here in the door panel and another pocket back here. But what I like about the Escape is that this is a deep, deep pocket, much deeper than is on their cars. And they even give you a side cubby right here so that you could store, I don't know, flashlight or something in there. Same story goes for the back passengers as well. They get a cup holder here and a little cubby. Very Ford window switches and door handles here, and they even get a couple of heater vents and a plug-in. Now, different than the Explorer or the Ford Expedition, there is no rear HVAC. This is just part of the HVAC from the front or the main part of the car, so the passengers don't get to be different than the driver, but it's also such a small car that you don't really need to worry about that. The Escape is not as passenger focused as the Explorer or the Expedition, but you can see a 5'9" guy like me still has plenty of room here in the back seat. We also get this flip down center console dealio that has two cup holders in it, and it's pretty comfortable back here. I could definitely take a longer trip in this vehicle. These seats even slightly adjust, so I can pull it forward or I can go all the way back with them. But I have a decent amount of legroom for what this crossover SUV is. This is nice. This is nice. I'm just going to warm up for a little bit in here because it's still not even in the single digits outside. Ooh, it's cold. This is not a power liftgate, so it's full manual with an electronic switch or latch to unlatch it. But you have to actually lift it yourself and put it down yourself, which, you know, in today's world, that might be a big deal for someone. It doesn't bother me. This is just a base model. I'm sure on some of the upgraded trim levels that the Escape does have a power liftgate. Now, in terms of cargo space here, I was very shocked and impressed by how much room there is in the back of this car. Dare I say it even has more space in terms of depth than the Ford Explorer. You could easily carry all of the luggage imaginable for the amount of passengers that this car can hold. Now, having said that, you might have a hard time fitting some golf clubs back here, but you could probably make it work. But in terms of a weekender take a trip or a weekender Costco full cart grocery hauler, this SUV would work perfect. If you do need to fit golf clubs in the back or something slightly larger and you don't have to worry about having all of your passengers, these seats fold down to open up this space a lot as well. Now, I haven't myself figured out how to get these seats to go into a cargo mode where they lay down perfectly flat, but if I needed to, I could take several sets of golf clubs or a weed whacker or something longer with these seats folded down. This Escape is powered by the 1.5 liter EcoBoost that has 179 horsepower and 177 foot-pounds of torque. Now that might sound really underwhelming for a 2017 vehicle, but it's actually a pretty decent match for the size and weight of this small SUV. This car feels nimble and it feels pretty quick and sporty, again, for the 4-cylinder that is in the front of this. This is the all-wheel drive model, so I don't know how the front-wheel drive model or any of the other ones, you know, the 2.4 or 5 or whatever they had in them, feels to drive. But I actually really like driving this SUV. It really reminds me of driving our 15 Focus with the 2-liter, naturally aspirated 2-liter that we had. I think the handling and ride quality of this SUV is on par with most SUVs of this category. This car drives and rides really nice. It's not as sporty as some crossover models, but it still handles really well and has a fairly smooth ride. Now, I get it. It's supposed to be bigger and larger than a car with a lot more room than a car, yet still drive like a car, maneuver like a car, and be easy and fun to drive in the city. And I think Ford accomplishes that with this Escape. Now, I actually feel like it drives better and is more peppy than our Fusion. Our Fusion feels long and it feels like a boat, whereas this feels quick and nimble and agile and drives a lot more like our Ford Focus did. And it's still equipped with the crappy 6-speed power shift Ford transmission that's the dual clutch, kind of auto manual type deal. But it works. It works. And at 87,000 miles, this one is still running and driving excellent, just how it should. Which is more than I can say for our Focus and our Fusion, both at around 130 to 50,000 miles. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at one of these. Make sure you do your research and study some of the issues that they had, because they did have a few issues with this particular transmission. Okay, we're in Mexico, so I'm going to show you guys the 0 to 60 in the Ford Escape. So in the 0 to 60 acceleration clip that I show you guys, I'm not actually going to push the car that hard because it is a loaner and they're just letting me borrow it for the day. It's plenty peppy for what it is. For having a 1.5 4-cylinder under the hood and still be kind of a larger car, it's plenty peppy. I don't think you will find this car lacking in any sense of that matter. Let's talk all-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive. So a lot of folks worry about winter driving, especially here in Idaho, or maybe you're in Wyoming, Colorado, somewhere, looking at getting an Escape. I love the all-wheel drive in this Escape. Now, I have driven better. I personally love Honda's all-wheel drive. Subaru is really good, Audi. But this Escape is also really, really good in the snow. So I personally taken this through 6 to 8 inches of snow today. And earlier, I didn't try to get it stuck on video, but I tried to get it stuck earlier, and it dug itself right out of it. Now, I'm not on a road, I'm not on ice, but this will handle very, very light snow and off-roading perfectly fine, very capable vehicle. And if I take this car out into the deepest of it, right here, you can feel it lug down, and I can even stop in the snow, which you would never be able to stop in the snow like this in a front-wheel drive. And then this car literally digs itself right out of the snow. Here's the little 1.5 EcoBoost. Again, everything looks very Ford in this engine bay. Now you will notice, if you're someone that works on your own vehicles, this is a little bit more crammed up than it is in the Ford cars. The engine sits back in the firewall just a little bit more, but everything should still be fairly easy and accessible to work on over time. I don't believe that these are overly expensive or labor-intensive vehicles to work on. So that's also something to keep in mind. And a very reliable EcoBoost from Ford. Absolutely love this 1.5. Actually, I'm more of a fan of the naturally aspirated 2-liter, which I do believe some of these models came with. But if you want the EcoBoost, the turbo, a little bit more power, better fuel economy and pep, the 1.5 or the 2.5 is going to be your answer. I showed you guys earlier that this car has been averaging 21.5 miles to the gallon, and I believe that's mostly in-town driving. Ford claims 22 in the city and 28 miles to the gallon on the highway for the all-wheel drive model. Now the front-wheel drive model averages 29, so take your pick in terms of fuel economy in that regard as well. I don't think the all-wheel drive does that much worse to justify buying just the front-wheel drive, especially if you live somewhere where winter is an issue or on your mind. The 4-wheel drive, all-wheel drive model is probably the better option. And there you have it. When it comes to value, the base Ford Escape offers a good balance of features for the price, especially if looking to buy one of these used SUVs and you don't mind sacrificing some of the premium features. Now, if you want some of the more premium features, but you love the Escape, they have higher trim levels with those available in them as well. I definitely love the Ford Escape, and it gives you a really great driving experience for the price. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Make sure you like this video if it helped you out. Make a decision on buying a Ford Escape. Also, check out my other videos. I've reviewed everything from the Ford Focus all the way up to the Ford Expedition, and consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss out on future content. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.